Season 9 for Diablo 4 is right around the corner, and with some big heavy-handed nerfs coming to both Blood Spear and Blood Wave, Minion Necromancer, one of our top 4 builds in Season 8 that also got an amazingly new powerful toy in the hand of Nas, looks like it's going to be in the running for one of our strongest builds this season. But maybe you don't know how to start off from looking like this guy. To pushing in high pit tiers like this guy. Well, fret not. I have a planner for you that you can use to go from there to there with as little effort as possible. And I wanted to share some of my secrets with what a leveling Minion Necromancer build looks like, what it looks like before you get all of your mythics going, and then what the end game will probably look like as well. So check the description or the pinned comment. That's where the planner will be. Obviously, we'll also have a Minion leveling and a Minion end game build guide on Maxroll if you like reading through all of the minutia. But I wanted to offer you up something here, which is kind of my spin on it, because a lot of people have been asking for it, so I figured I'd put it into your hands. And I don't want to waste too much of your time, so I'm just going to very quickly go through what you need to understand about how the planner works so you can find the information that you're looking for. Following the link in the pinned comment, you're going to be brought to this setup right here, which is the Mythic setup. But if you just click this drop down, you'll see that I have a leveling, an ancestral, and then finally the mythic version of it. What I like about my leveling version of the Minion build is that you're going to continue to use the Golem. This guy packs an absolute punch, gives you some much needed unstoppable, and just really good single target damage before you eventually get the uniques that will make the Mage version of this build the strongest possible. So all the gear here is all pre-ancestral. I'm only showing it with a single temper, just to give you an idea of like what you're trying to shoot for and the minimum requirements of the build to feel good. I do have it nearly armor capped all the way up to Torment 4, which you absolutely will have better gear at that point. But even down at Torment 2 and Torment 3, you're going to be completely armor capped and near or fully resistance capped as well. The gear is only item power 750. That's before you get to ancestrals. I only have a single temper on it as well. You would be able to get these up even higher once you start getting ancestral gear. And what I'm basically showing you is the best stats, a really simple idea of what you should be masterworking as the first stat on it if you're going to spend some of that time doing it, and then the best aspects to put onto all of your gear as well. On the leveling version of it, I'm going to continue to recommend Soul Rift as the primary ultimate. We are going to swap over to Army of the Dead at a certain point, once I think that you'll have enough gear and cooldown reduction to be able to actually spam this. But until then, we're just going to use the really good uptime on Vulnerable, the essence generation so you can spam skills, as well as the damage scaler that Soul Rift will give you 100% of the time. I'm not going to bore you to death with the skill tree here, but just remember, since we're leveling, we're going to be using all of the mastery, so include the Warrior Mastery, the Mage Mastery, as well as the Golem Mastery. Going with Heart and Bones here for a huge amount of damage reduction. We're going to use Blood Getters for even more damage scaling whenever you click Raise Skeleton. We're going to use Frenzy Dead for better attack speed on our minions. You want to get them all the way up to 100% between this, your base attack speed, and your summon attack speed in your Paragon. You just need to get all that up to 100% in total. We're going to use Aphotic as well. Aphotic will make it so that your warriors also do shadow damage. So in case you end up putting some additional points into things like Gloom, you'll get a little bit more out of them. They also can apply a pretty decent stun with this. Cursed Aura to automate everything for you so you don't have to sit there spamming your own. On the big two-hander, we're going to go with Grasping Veins to get you a huge amount of critical strike chance. Since the primary way of scaling minions damage is through crit, this is going to be a really good tool for being able to hit it. Also, you can basically have 100% uptime on this damage multiplier since you'll be creating corpses all the time. I called to Minion on the amulet so you can have as many minions as possible. And then we're going with Great Feast as well as Reanimation. Just really good damage multis here. For the minions, we're going with Reapers are going to reduce your cooldown for better uptime on Soul Rift, Corpse Tendrils, your Golem activation, as well as Bone Prison. Obviously, Shadow Mages with the increased damage multiplier per Shadow Mage that you have. And then we're actually going to go with Bone Golem to apply the additional vulnerable effect, but also just the additional damage from this Bone Splinters attack that he does. Basically, anytime that he gets attacked once every 3 seconds, he's just going to do a really good amount of additional damage in an area around him. If you prefer to go with Activate him creates corpses, so you can always kind of do that on demand, that's definitely a great option. Just remember at this point though, a lot of people are generally recommending Blood Golem, but Griparian has completely convinced me that Bone Golem is the way. Bone Golem attacks more than twice as fast as the Blood Golem does, so even though your activation would do more damage on Blood Golem, the base hit rate of your bone golem is significantly faster, meaning more overall DPS. We're going to be using Astral Pillar for the recommended power here. This is going to taunt enemies and apply vulnerable to them, so you'll just have like permanent uptime on that. It also perpetually shoots out a bunch of waves of damage, which is just a nice way to be able to stack on more lucky hit chance. And then because I won't assume that you can get the more powerful Arcana that are like legendary and rare, I went with 3 Magic Arcana just to get it started off. Bottled Wind will get you barriers for more survivability. Reactive Ooze is going to increase your resource gen so you can spam Blight more often. And then Shifting Powder is going to get you a huge amount of movement speed. For the mercenaries, I'm actually going to recommend Variana to begin with, because Variana will grant you even more attack speed and then even more attack speed, and your minions are actually going to inherit this as well. She also does like a decent amount of damage herself, but it's that attack speed that's really nice. If you're already at the attack speed cap, you would just swap this over to Rahir. The great part about Rahir with Ground Slam here is that you actually get to use his Aegis. That'll give you a ton of all resistance, so it's easier to hit your caps, along with Bastion, which is just a huge survivability tool. And then taking inspiration down here just means that you will very often benefit from a damage multiplier. And then Aldkin with Flame Surge, because this is going to apply a ton of lucky hit chance effects, especially against a single target. When you bump up to the Ancestral version, I'm also going to assume that you have access to various unique items. Most notably, the ones that are really important are obviously going to be the Hands of Nas. I'm not really recommending more than 2 Masterwork crits across any important stat here, because it's just very unlikely that you would have the opportunities to do this before you even get your Mythic gear. So I just recommend the best one and then the second best one for you to stack on more damage. Obviously, you're going to want the Ring of Mendeln. Don't get it twisted. Even though our Archmages are going to have this ability where their base attack is going to do more damage, Ring of Mendeln is by far the vast majority of the damage that this build does at this point. Basically, roughly napkin mathing the damage, Ring of Mendeln represents 70% of the total damage output of your build. The minions attacking are nice. Ring of Mendeln is nicer. And then the last one that I would consider to be required for the build would be Blood Moon Breaches. Eventually, you can actually just rely on Blood Moon Breaches applying the curse for you for Decrepify, so you don't need things like Cursed Aura that opens up either a rune word or an additional aspect slot. But just to make things easier, we're still using Cursed Aura on a legendary armor. I recommend Godslayer because it is just a decent amount of increased damage every once in a while when you're fighting elites or a boss. And the stats on a helmet are not too important on a mage minion focused build. Your boots are actually going to be one of the places where you can stack on a ton of armor so you can continue to reach cap. For the weapon, we're going to be putting Service and Sacrifice on at this point. You might say, why not put Unyielding Commander on the weapon since it's the biggest damage multiplier? I do think that you're going to run into some issues where you won't have 100% uptime on Army of the Dead yet, so that's where Service and Sacrifice comes in. It's just a 3 times multi 100% of the time for your mages. It's kind of insane. The amulet at this point, just so we can continue to fit everything onto the build that you might want, including Occult, we do have Unyielding Commander on the amulet. That's not going to be in the final version, but it's here for now. And then we're still using Grasping Veins here. Just a huge damage multi. You're going to be sacrificing your minions. Sacrificing skirmishers get you a ton of crit chance. If you need res to be able to hit your caps, sacrifice your defenders for now. And you might think sacrificing your reapers for more shadow damage. Again, remember, while the mages are the ones applying damage, they are applying Mendeln's damage. So getting a damage multiplier for only about 30% of the damage that your build does is actually not nearly as impactful as some people might try to sell you on. And obviously sacrificing your Iron Golem for the big crit damage multi. Once you're in Ancestrals in your 12 out of 12 Masterwork, I'm going to go ahead and assume you can have all the Heroic spells that you want. Here we're actually going to swap over to Disintegrate. Disintegrate is just better for being able to apply effects. And in addition to that, has better uptime on the cooldown and also has really good lucky hit chance. Bloody Charm to be able to execute here, Fractured Core to be able to reduce damage resistance auras. This is really important in the pit. And then we're swapping over to Tranquil Stone as our source of Unstoppable. Also at this point, once you're into your Ancestral gear, you should probably be over on Rahir on that setup I already explained. And one of the big differences from the skill tree is that we're able to recoup 3 points from this mastery and these points from this mastery, as well as swap over to Army of the Dead. Remember, you actually don't need Supreme Army of the Dead at all. Your minions do not die at this point, even without Service and Sacrifice. They just would never die. So putting a point here quite literally does nothing. Now, the only caveat that I will put to that is that if you are fighting either Harbinger, Indariel, or Duriel, especially in the earlier tiers or on worse gear to be able to get the items that you need, they might die to the effects in those boss encounters. So putting a point into Supreme Army of the Dead here, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and do that for you. I've seen the error of my ways. I think that this will make it easier for the people at this point in their progression. But we're going to be taking this point out later, don't forget that. Bumping up to the Mythic version, we're going to be using Air of Perdition. This is going to make hitting our crit cap significantly easier. Shroud of False Death is just an insane amount of total damage. We're going to be able to swap over our rune word to Igni Thule. Igni Thule is going to apply 15% damage multiplier and vulnerable and freeze to all targets within its area whenever it goes off. I think this is just a strictly better version of Ohm, unless you're trying to speed farm, where you have to apply this to a target and then hit them. Ohm is just a damage multiplier that you get. So you would see a difference between those if you're trying to do two different types of activities. And then also at this point, you're going to be using Ahu Cax. This is going to trigger very quickly with all of your mages attacking, get you a huge damage multiplier. But that's why you need the lucky hit chance to be able to restore a resource to get all of your resource back so that Cax rune can eat it again from you. Another thing that I just kind of wanted to touch on, because you're looking at the weapon right now in all of its glory, you might notice that I don't have Skeleton Mage attack twice temper on here. The very long and short of it, based off the same argument that we just had about Ring of Mendeln and how much damage that is, Titan's Fall is going to increase all the damage you do. It's going to increase the damage that your mages do. It's going to increase the damage that Mendeln does. Whereas making it so that your mages attacks fire twice actually do not make them trigger their effects more often. It does not make them trigger Mendeln more often either. But what it does is basically grant you an 88% damage multiplier for 30% of your damage. Whereas Titan's Fall gives you a 50% damage multiplier for all of your damage. It's not even close. You're going to be using the same setup for your spells, same setup for your mercenaries, same setup for your skill tree. Again, we're just going to take one of those out, and the same setup for your Paragon as well. So you can go ahead and reference all of these. Just remember you have these drop downs here, so you can look at whatever you personally need to. And like I said, we're obviously going to have a minion leveling guide here on Maxroll, and we're also going to have an endgame minion guide as well. But I just want to put out my own planners just because people are constantly asking me. But as the season goes on, if you're looking for better information or basically the updates to what's going on here, Thurrock is going to be handling that over on the Maxroll webpage. So go ahead and favorite these. You can also pin them if you didn't know that. But you can also pin the page right here, and then whenever an update comes out, you'll get a notification up here in the little bar. So don't forget about that. You don't want to miss out on anything that Thurrock cooks up for you. But that's it. I just wanted to bring you my leveling guide. I wanted to bring you my endgame guide. I wanted to bring you that transitional state just in case, oddly enough, you don't have a bunch of mythics at the end of day one. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Have you enjoyed playing the build? If we're already into the season at this point when you see this video, let me know. I'm personally going to be piloting mage minions walking into this season. Later on, I'm going to try a golem only version of the build as well, but at least for right now, I'm going to be playing this hype beast because I think it was a lot of fun in the PTR from my own experience playing it, and I think people are going to have a really, really good time with it because out of all of the uniques they've ever added to the Necromancer, no joke, I think that this is by far the best one they ever have. So let me know what you think. I'd love to hear from you. If you're brand new here, you don't want to miss out on everything, so subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell notification. I don't spam you with anything. I'm not going to be like flooding you with videos and updates. You just don't want to miss out on any of them when they do come out, because I'm trying to bring you the highest quality stuff that I possibly can. But thank you very much for watching this video. I truly, truly hope that it helps. I look forward to seeing you in Season 9.